Hello viewers, I Hate Green Beans here, and as I had promised in the previous commentary, I'll be doing something somewhat different from what I've done before. And that would be talking about various users on DeviantArt that I have discovered on my own. No additions on here will be influenced by other DA ranters. But Bracket, I thought you disliked the community that DeviantArt ranters occupy. Well, you're not wrong there, but I'll be blunt and say my perspective on them was pretty much made to join the bandwagon at the time, and only a few points stuck out. If there is a new problem I have with these guys, there seems to be more rants on ranters than there are of actual artists now. It pretty much replicates the drama surrounding many popular channels to this day, and it fails to make them look credible. Damn, I went a little off tangent there. But to be concise, DeviantArt artist reviews still have tons of potential and don't always have to sound preachy or snobbish. To open up this special, I'll be giving the spotlight to an actual great artist, that being Startoons. Before I analyze his gallery, I'm going to be reading the bio off his profile, and I'll do the same for most of the other artists I'll talk about here. I'm Caesar. I like to draw cartoons, humor, and gross. Yeah, not exactly proper English, but I can't knock him for that, as it's clear that it wasn't his first language, as seen by the first line being written in Spanish. Ignore the grammar Nazi in me. A lot of his recent artwork shares a relatively similar grotesque style. If you were squeamish towards that kind of art, this would likely not be the place for you. However, his earlier work is a lot more cartoonish, and I do admire both styles. One for the design, and the others for the detail and effort. His style is slightly reminiscent to that of King Star King, albeit a lot less gory. If there is one criticism I will give him, he could draw his different original characters multiple times rather than just once. Two of the only exceptions I can currently name off of this are Dick, a very Ren and Stimpy-esque dog character, and Ghost, or Goss, an overweight dark gray ghost. Still, his distinctive art is worthy of checking out on your own, though this is not the kind of artist some will tolerate. I'll give his gallery a rating of around 8 out of 10. Thought care is put into his works, but it could do with more variety and some more reoccurring characters. I am glad that he has received some compliments by other great artists in a similar mold, like Lotus Bandicoot and the now deactivated TVS Rick. Next user to be presented is Richard Chibbard, or Richard C. Hibbard. Don't question the use of his real name, that's just how he wants to be called. Though for the rest of this video, I'll call him Hibbard. This guy was a user that frequently cropped up whenever I tried to find art out of Foster's Imaginary Friends. Great show, by the way. But rummaging through his DeviantArt gallery gives me some very disturbing feelings. About 90% of his gallery is a bunch of edits, likely done in MS Paint, Photoshop, or Pixlr, putting characters into it. Typically Foster's characters. Every now and then he'll mix it up by putting some Pixar's Cars into the equation, or some other show. However, it still relies heavily on Foster's. The PNGs he uses vary in quality, and they tend to be ugly and blurry in a ton of them. Not only that, but he reuses them constantly. But don't get the wrong impression, he's never drawn before, because he has. These actual drawings typically increase the creepiness factor within Hibbard, and most of them look like they were traced from another source. I'm only showing you this one because plenty of these involve some NSFW material, and I don't want to screenshot any of those. Backing away from his actual gallery, I'll be looking at the other things on it. I was going to talk about his bio, but all I see on it is his YouTube link and a load of buttons. There isn't much I can say about those, besides talking shit about his interests. Don't get too down on yourselves, cause I'll talk about his journals instead. Ah crap, I've been greeted to by a "please come back" message. Nikki 1975, I've been waiting for a long time for you to reply to my notes, and I'm worried about you. I still want to continue role-playing with you when I'm feeling impatient. Please come back, Nikki. Please! Followed by a bunch of crying gifs. Let's read something a little less depressing. Like the journal right before this one, which is loosely a fanfiction of Foster's, of course. Mark Blue, Frankie Wilt, Eduardo, Coco, Mr. Harriman, and Madame Foster all walks down the theater room to find some seats for them. And the available seats they found are on the first 2 rows. Mac, Blue, Frankie, Mr. Harriman, and Madame all sits in the middle of the first row. And Eduardo, Wilt, and Coco all sit in the middle of the second row behind them. We already get a lot of needless exposition, and the story goes further down the rabbit hole from here, entering into adding more random characters and changing to script format. Fuck it. I'm spoiling the punchline. The theater turns pitch black and the THX logo shows up from out of nowhere, leading to a bunch of them to panic. Then the logo gets louder and scares the living bejesus out of the crowd. Oh, and that's how it ends. Most of these random characters added never spoke once in the whole damn thing. I won't be reading any more of these, partially due to how samey they are. Instead, I'll show you a few highlights from his gallery. You know, the loud house is commonplace within the childish and honestly more autistic side of DeviantArt, and this guy delivers this need to them by mixing it in with his other favorite shows. This may sound biased, but I find memes like these out of properties loved by the military complex of neckbeards to be way worse than similar ones from different franchises, mostly because of their overexposure. Sleeping positions are hard to get right, especially when overlaid, but the attempt at getting rid of the parts of the original PNG makes this more of a poison to the eyes. Yeah, it could be worse, I guess. A cartoonish blaster gun apparently resembles a pistol in the shadow, and the fact the shadows seem to be missing their hands. Oh, just a smooth race day with bananas, a pie, and an anvil right on the track. All of it is gloriously clip art. Ugh, that's one scary ass face right there. Wait, let me look closer. Holy fish sticks, this is reminding me of something. Yes, this looks a hell of a lot like the Richard D. James album cover. And because they are both named Richard, this just makes it even funnier. You blew it with adding those low-res PNGs of Mac and Blue though. So yeah, his gallery is a haunting one to view. Not to mention creatively dry. But aside from some supposed internet girlfriend he seems to be stalking, he seems like a nice individual. Sadly for him, I have to give his gallery a 3 out of 10. Speaking of creatively sterile, here come Oh Yeah Cartoons fan. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of disregard for originality here. These images were undeniably taken with a phone camera, vertically, and many of them are so close to the screen that they are blurry as fuck. I've even seen multiple pics he took with the source they came from given away. Sometimes it's another DA user's art, other times it's from Google Images or another source. Then there are the occasions where he uploads the same picture twice. Worse yet, some of his oldest uploads were actually directory uploads of other cartoon screenshots. I can't pinpoint the exact time he stopped doing this, because I'm not looking for 201 goddamn pages of this stuff, but I'm gonna go and assume it was pretty early on. Neither of these methods are correct morally, and it is basically art theft. What also boggles my mind is the inconsistent categories he places them under. Some are listed as photography, which is sort of correct. Others are traditional or digital cartoons, which is sort of correct if you look into what methods the cartoons were made in originally, and more recently some were in scraps. I guess that's the more morally correct choice, but yeah. The thing is, this guy has uploaded so much on the site that the servers can't even organize the scraps on his account, I guess. He has also wrote fanfiction. Just your typical script format laden atrocities not too uncommon with people in this personal bubble. This user has actually gotten a load of flack for taking these stolen images, and occasionally he'll respond saying he'll never do those again. Fast forward only a day later, okay, actually that seems like a little too much time, he continues to upload more and more of the bootlegged frames people badmouthed him for. He's a filthy liar with no shame. Actually, I think I know why he doesn't feel any guilt for him uploading pages upon pages of screenshots. I went investigating on his profile, and I discovered he is a member of a certain DA group. That group name is Autistic. Was that the freaking group name? Autistic. Oh, and look who's a part of this group. The infamous Jacobiel. But wait a minute. Some of the members are missing. Where's Michael Eddy? Where's 2 Guy? Where's Farhan the movie guy? Oh right, he's deactivated. Not that the slim amount of members matters, because this group ultimately has zero purpose. The featured section is literally empty, and their favorites are suggested and oftentimes perverted, or have ponies in them. That's a low attachment rate right there. But before I completely abandon this group, let's read the lone journal on it, written by its founder, Ben 10 Magician. Welcome, fellow autistic members. Now, first our job is to block, report, and drive away bullies that are thieves like XX Gothies Junk XX and Mason the T-Rex, cause they are just bullies and thieves. And this parts, none of us take very kindly to art thieves and bullies. If any of you spotted a bully nearby and give us mean comments, block and report at once. Good luck, friends, and remember, be proud of who we are, cause we are a happy autistic group. You know, this journal hammers in an unfortunate downside to the DeviantArt user base. A pulsating urge to remove detractors off of this platform for their meanie-weenie actions. Frick, let's just conclude my 2 cents on No Yeah Cartoons fan. All of his art sucks, because it was never his, and his journals and literature leave much to be desired like any other scriptwriter on DA passing them off as stories. Let's remember that this guy is also actively claiming to end his wish to upload thousands of cartoon images while not delivering on his promise. For those factors, his account gets gets an astonishingly low 0 out of 10. A worthless waste of server space run by a delusional nitwit. To end off this special, well, this one at least, let's overview the greatest artist ever, Marcos Power 1996. You likely have noticed I've mentioned him in previous videos before this one, such as Me Reads Dumb Comments episode 5 and 5.5. Also, the Deviant Cringe thing, but whatever. Unlike the rest, this guy is very prolific, which means I'm expecting a swarm of offended fans to vent their anger in the comments. Thanks Luna Moon for proving me that those exist. I've known him for about 2 years, but didn't think about visiting his gallery up until late last year. For that reason, I have a decent amount of information about this dude, but I want to keep this segment brief so this doesn't turn out to be over 15 minutes. Cause I didn't feel like talking about the bio for the last guy featured, I'll make up for that by reviewing this one. I like cartoons, animes, comics, and video games. Those are some very stereotypically nerdy interests there. Which fits. But my favorite of all time is Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. I sense that Epic Mickey's his favorite game. Oh, and he was not kidding about him loving Oswald. It's like he draws a new image of him every frickin' day. Personal quote, I'm a cartoon lover. Aw, little Marcos, you spent so much time on that phrase. How adorable. His bio even gives away his top favorite characters in shows, which includes the following. Bendy, Cuphead, Mickey Mouse, Felix the Cat, Pikachu, Every Pony, Kawaii Desu Anime Squeeze, and Minions. Minions. Notice how a lot of the pics would be the favorite of either a child or an adult with a childish mentality. As for his art, it's very boring and flat, with little to nothing in the way of shading or detail. Sadly, with rare exceptions, there's nothing to make fun of here, other than the fact he draws Betty Boop like she woke up on the wrong side of the bed. You know what I can mock? The subject matter. I can lump some of his art into multiple categories. The dumb, the random, and the repetitive. The art may be placed into multiple categories, so be sure to remember that if you visit his gallery. This one is dumb, these are repetitive, and this is random. Come to think, I think all those images apply to the 3 categories. If you have perused his art, you likely would have noticed a high amount of art surrounding vintage cartoons, or shows and games in a style reminiscent to them, such as Animaniacs or Cuphead. Yeah, he draws stuff like that a lot. How is it a problem? I'll tell you. He seems very obsessive for them, and the buttons on his bio cement this. Also, take a peek at these folders. Notice all the classic cartoon characters featured, and this is only a sampler of them, so he has much more. Hey, I will give him some credit for organizing them. And yeah, I noticed the subject matter gets even more bizarre in those drawings. Ha! Effort! Meh, how is that any different from your traditional classic cartoon? Oh, and I'm not even gonna explain his journals. He'll post them whenever he watches a new movie or when a holiday falls. I watched Despicable Me 3 today. It was great. Effort. And last, but certainly not least, there's his attitude. Marcos doesn't take too kindly to negative feedback, and has removed numerous art for this reason, so if Marcos purges a lot of his gallery, you know why. Also, you might think his profile aesthetic is a calm, campy, happy, and peaceful one. You're very wrong, as he becomes pretty damn militant. I remember seeing a journal exposing his actual racism. I was going to find the screenshot, but I guess Marcos's fans took down the journal it came from, or the user deactivated, I don't know. Still, I do distinctly remember seeing a comment written by Marcos calling one of their friends the N-word as an insult. Sure, that in itself isn't that good of an action, but there's literally a stamp on his homepage going against racism. Okay, this is something that I despise with many people, which includes some of my own fans, believe it or not. Stop acting like you're on the moral high ground. Don't just go into virtue signal even if you're gonna do what you hate. Isn't that right, FK? Sorry for glancing over his gallery, but I gotta keep this thing short. I will consider making a more in-depth rant on this guy in the future, but it may never happen at all. Marcos is a bare-bones artist who gets a ton of praise from the hundreds of yes men who request him non-stop, akin to Michael Eddy. He also isn't as neutral towards politics or some other serious topics as you think he is. On the rating scale, I'd say around 2 out of 10. Probably 3 if I account the slightly below average art quality. You just laid your eyes and ears upon some of the facets DeviantART carries, mostly negative ones. I'll consider a more positively focused one if I do another one of these, but time will tell, partly due to Net Neutrality's worrying state at the moment. DeviantART is still a reasonably okay site if you ignore all the strange ass lives occupying the service, and it is home to some of the greatest independent artists. See you all in the future, maybe. This is BracketNeutron, cutting off the signal.